In this episode, I'll be giving my reaction to the 10th episode in Survivor's 50th season, titled A Side Dish of Chaos. And what an episode we have to get into, so let's dive right into A Side Dish of Chaos. Right off the jump, I think the biggest stories of this hour, click off if you don't want to be spoiled. Stephanie LaGrossa voted out of the game. I think a lot of people are rejoicing tonight. I'd have to say Stephanie's probably my least favorite player left in the game, and she might have been my least favorite player left in the game at 24 players. But, she brought something to the season, so there's that. And, I think tonight was a night that definitely is described by. I don't think chaos was the side dish. I think chaos was the main dish tonight. This was a great episode of Survivor. This felt like classic, like late 30s Survivor. Very live tribals, very amazing scrambles. The scramble is what I'm here for. That's who's going home. I want to be shocked as the viewer. And coming into tonight, I would not have guessed that Stephanie would be the one going out at any point of tonight, really. And for that to come to fruition, the whole Mr. Beast of it all, we'll get into that all. But what an episode, really, tonight with Survivor 50. I have to say, I think there are going to be people out there who don't like this season, and that's fair. I think people nowadays, especially late 2020s, we're halfway through the 2020s. I think people just want to hate everything that comes out. I have to say it. And maybe you know what, maybe I'm an emotional reviewer because Survivor 40 will always be my favorite season of Survivor. And this might be top 10, bro. We'll have to see how this ends out, but this has been quite the season of Survivor. I feel like every week's been a great episode. Even the Zach Brown episode, which I shit all over the Zach Brown part of it, but that had a great vote out and the Mike White vote out. So really, I think this Survivor, bringing the celebrities, bringing the bullshit, bringing the twist, whatever, it doesn't matter because we have these great returning players and it's just awesome stuff over and over. And I was thinking about it while watching the episode. This boot list is awful. My favorite player, Q. I was just starting to like Kyle. I wanted to see what Jenna Lewis would do in this season. Genevieve taken out at the Kobe, but this season is still providing so much. And it's not like I look around and none of these people are my favorites. I didn't like Rick Devens at all. I didn't really care about Tiffany either way. I did not like Aubrey. I don't really care for Emily either way. Rizzo was kind of a clown in 49. Cirie is Cirie. She's the go, obviously. But Ozzy was like, why is Ozzy here? These people are giving us great stuff, man. This has been a great season, I have to say. And kill me if you think that's a hot take, but I love the Survivor, and this season 50 was worth the wait in my opinion. This is crazy. Tonight was crazy. Week by week, I'm always waiting for the week by week of Survivor, but it's really like what's going to possibly happen. So let's jump off this episode. Coming off of last week, by the way, if I have loyal viewers out there, I'm sorry for missing the episode 9 recap. I got to figure out a way when I go on vacation to make this work. Luckily, I will not be on vacation until the end of the season, so we should be good at least on the Survivor front. Actually, all the shows we're covering right now will be good on, but I know you guys don't watch the Daredevil or the Maul Sith Lord reviews. Anyways, so we start off this episode coming off of last week. I'm not going to give my thoughts on last week. That'll be a waste of time. Last week's news is last week's news, but Christian voted out at that tribal council. Emily comes back to camp, and Emily's in the final 9 of Survivor 50. Like, who would have ever thought that? She should be one of the first boots, just on theory, and how she's played so far has been awful. Just spewing and whatever, saying whatever. But she's still here, man, and she's trying to recuperate this alliance with Ozzy, which the whole dynamics of that original Orange Tribe are really just contrived at this point. Where we were to believe that Rick and Cirie are in alliance, and then he's accepting a plan tonight to vote her out, but I guess they're still together because he's like, I would never vote you out. Joe was just somehow in with them, but they voted out Christian. Who knows? Stephanie was not from that tribe. I think that tribe has what, like 5 of the 9 players left in the game. That's crazy. But Ozzy and Emily, I guess, had a thing. We go from the first episode of Emily saying, I would love to just get out Ozzy tonight. And I think she said that in the second episode as well. But she's now trying to recuperate this alliance that they had. And Ozzy's kind of like, I've given credit to Ozzy for being more welcoming to not being salty. And Emily and Rick did write Ozzy's name down at the tribal council before. So this has got to be over for Ozzy, but I think he does a good job being like, yeah, I'm sure we'll get back on track. And there's a moment later that maybe we can touch on if I remember to talk about it at one of the tribal councils or at one of the tribal council scenes. There felt like there was 4 tribal councils tonight. It was just one, but yeah. So that is the kind of comeback of camp. Rick just says fuck it. This is a great Rick Devens episode, and like I said before, I didn't really care for Rick Devens. I actually hated him. I didn't think I hated him. I did hate him on season 38. I was a big supporter of Gavin. Okay, I know they're friends now, so maybe that's water under the bridge, Rick, if you're ever watching this. But Rick Devens on season 50, man, like this guy, he hams it up for the TV. I was talking to my mom about this a couple of days ago, but like it's good content. Like I have to admire it, and I have to say, like Rick Devens has really won me over. I'm a fan of Rick moving forward in this season. He's probably one of my rooting interests of this season. I think Sari, Rizzo, and then Rick. Those are the people I'm rooting for, and maybe those are people that they're trying to get you to root for. Who knows? But I think Rick, he has a good mindset about this. Like he's on the bottom, so might as well blow it up. And one of my favorite tribal councils ever, looking back on, is the Passengers and Planes Tribal Council of the Live Tribal Council in season 38, where Rick just went in there and knew he was the target, or figured out someone was being targeted. I think he knew David was being targeted or something. But that was awesome. They go in and vote out Julia, who was never even going to be voted out. So Rick has really mastered the art of live tribals and chaos. It's like you don't when you think about Rick, you think of him as like a Ben Dreberg and like just needed idols and stuff. But he really brought chaos to the game, and he's bringing chaos to this game. And I'm gonna stop glazing Devens because I'm glazing for like 3 minutes. But I respect the mindset of just wanting to have fun and play. Like they're on the bottom. Him and Emily doing their little like we're gonna just cause chaos is fun and a little bit cringy, but we'll let it slide. So including how to potentially move forward in a logical way, Rick is going to come clean about the fake idol, which I don't know if that's a great play because you have this idol buff or bluff, right? Where it's like, if you vote me out tonight, then, or if you vote for me, I'm going to play my idol, where you could just keep that running. But no one's seen Rizzo's season, so no one's seen season 49, which is an ironic comment from Rick being like, I'm like Rizzo, I'm not going to keep playing it. But I don't know. I think I'm torn on this decision to tell everyone. Obviously, he said he was going to play it and he didn't play it, and I guess that got Aubrey in a lot of trouble, actually. So maybe on this season and this season's, what's that fucking word they would always say in Survivor 43 that pissed me off? Oh, in this season's social contract. Okay, if you say you're going to play an idol and you don't, you're a liar and you get shamed. So get on Rick in that part. I'm for this move. Obviously, this kind of ran out of steam last week anyway when he couldn't save Christian or himself. So cool stuff. He tells the story, but I didn't like the story of him saying that, like how he planted it and was like, it seemed a little like he was being conniving and like sneaking around and stuff. Thought he could maybe frame that a little bit better of a way. Like blame somebody who's not there anymore. Say like in the first tribal, Savannah put it there, and then me and Christian were like, oh, we'll do this. I think that'd be the way out. But next level thinking. Monday morning quarterback. Rick's in the final nine. I'm sitting on my couch, aka office chair, analyzing his gameplay. But so overall W decision. I'm deciding on the Rick play. Right away we get into the auction, which this episode being 2 hours is insane just due to one. I thought this was going to be a double for sure. I'm like, they're going to do two cycles, which the math ain't mathing for me, which maybe we'll talk about at the end. But you have to go from, or I'll just talk about it now. You have to go from 9 to 8 to 7 to 6, and we have 3 episodes left. So 9 to 8, 8 to 7, 7 to 6. Where we're getting another double soon. I can't take these 2 hour episodes, man. You already took up so much of my time, Survivor. 3 hour finale, 3 hour premiere, like 3 2 hour episodes already. It's season 50. I'm down. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. Of course, give me every 2 hour episode. No season 46 bullshit where, Charlie and Ben are doing Taylor Swift versus Metallica songs. Okay, that was the worst 2 hour episode of Survivor history. Back to this season. Auction. Let's go. I was excited for the auction. If you've seen any of the promo for this season or any of the promo just for this week, it's been a big mention that the auction will be back. And, it's kind of a weird auction where I don't know. Yeah, it's good. Like it's a good auction. I think I'm okay with the. They need to actually reset the clock of the advantages. So I'm actually really glad there's no advantages in this because that's what makes the auction fun. Is if no one's waiting for the advantage at the end, which some people got burned tonight, which we'll talk about. But if you're not waiting for the advantage at the end of the auction, saving up all your money, players feel more free to suspend. Sari bought 3 or 4 items. There were a couple of you out there buying things, so I thought that was exciting in that regard, where it's like this is just for food, and like players in 51 will be, or they won't have seen this because they're playing right now, but players in 52 will see be like, oh, at 50 was just food and like the Mr. Beast bullshit. So like, there's no advantage. We can just spend our money on whatever we want, and I like that. I think the saving up for 500, then there's like 5 people at the end of 500, and one of them draws a rock to get an advantage. It's all bullshit. I don't like that. The auction should be like this in fun theory. I will say they need to throw more gross things. We only saw 2 gross things. I'm sure there's more off camera that we didn't see. But there's no risk of losing your vote as well. So we're taking positive steps. I think, and if you heard the news over the weekend, spoilers for Survivor 51, we're back to 2 tribes starting. You know, is Survivor turning it around? Is this the start of the new era that is going to save us? But no risk of losing your vote at the auction, and any money you don't spend, you keep. So There it is. You don't need to spend money on advantage. You just got $500. I know three people who got $500 richer tonight, or at least two people who got $500 richer tonight. And this auction has the theme of comfort or chaos. Fine, if you have to do like a stick to it, go ahead with the comfort or chaos. I didn't really care for that theme, but yeah, we needed more gross shit. But there are some team up moments here, some funny things. You have to split them. If you split the money, then you have to split the item. I do like the duo items and the kind of challenge aspect of it, eating the gross food. We got gross eating on Survivor tonight. Like there was so much stuff in this episode. But so Aubrey's the first one to take a crack at this. If somebody eats the grubs in the pair of her and Rizzo we know is a picky eater. I think we actually knew that from season 49 somehow. That's like a deep pull in my memory of how we figured that out. But he's not gonna eat those grubs, and Aubrey eats the grubs in a very weird fashion. I think people who are like those quirky kind of like ecstatic people will like this episode from Aubrey. I was just kind of mad at well, especially this part I thought was really cringy of her like running up and down and being like dancing and eating the grubs. Not for me, but I know some people out there do like that stuff. So there you go. But of course she eats it for Rizzo, and if she eats it in time, two grubs, she gets the food in live grubs too, by the way, which I always want. Maybe this isn't a question for the Survivor pod, but like, how do when you eat something live, like does it just die when it gets in your stomach? Your stomach breaks it down and kills it. Like I never. That's what and eating live stuff is always like, oh, I don't want to do that, fear factor, all that crap. But I don't know. I've always wondered like what's the actual process. If I eat something, even if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably eaten a couple spiders. Hate to break it to you, but yeah, Aubrey eats the grubs in a weird fashion. Of course, they get it. Rizzo gets to get cookies, which he didn't even spend money, I don't think, and he just gets cookies because Aubrey ate the grubs. So W for Rizzo. A really dumb one was the fall on the sword challenge, where Jonathan buys two baskets. He has to pick one and then pick somebody to go with him. He picks Ozzy. Whoever he doesn't pick, or whichever one he picked, one of them has to pick one. Obviously, Jonathan's going to pick. He paid for it, and if he picks the one with the gross stuff, he doesn't. He has to eat it and gets nothing. Or if he gets the comfort, then he has to watch Ozzy eat it, and hopefully he does it. Which like, good thing he picked somebody he trusted in the game that he's going to come for in like 2 hours to get out. But no, I think I don't know. I thought this was a stupid twist, but who's gonna like someone's gonna get up there and just be like, I'm not doing this. I guess that's what they wanted it to be was like Jonathan just be like, nah, fuck this, Ozzy, sorry, you're not getting these chicken wings. But I don't know. I feel like in today's Survivor and the new era, nobody's gonna be like, I'm not doing that shit. It is what it is. So we get to the moment that's been waiting for, a while. When we saw this on the Survivor 50 trailer, I saw it too. I was a little pissed off. It felt like I don't want to sound like a geek, okay? But the Survivor 50 trailer, bro, I was waiting for that for so long, okay? I think Survivor 49, God bless it, was like a bottom four season of the new era. Um, Maybe even bottom three, like 43 is in the bottom, 44. We don't need to go through that right now, but Mr. Beast saying, I have a briefcase. I was waiting for the Survivor 50 trailer for months and months. And to see him, Jimmy Fallon, Billie Eilish boomerang idol, Zach Brown. Now I see Zach Brown in Survivor. I know all these lines by heart. And yes, okay. I played this trailer like over 100 times to myself, probably to get myself hyped up for the season. I still play the season 40 trailer. Sometimes the trailer is better than the actual show. Peaky Blinders season 6. Um, Random pull right there. But no, but like there's a lot of fear when this stuff happens where like people were upset about the Jimmy Fallon twist. I personally would have tweeted a couple things about that, but I'm not doing last week's episode this week. Zach Brown was a dumbass segment. The Billie Eilish boomerang idol fucked over Genevieve. Like it's a cool idea and concept, but maybe a flop. And tonight we'll talk about this twist because it doesn't get revealed right away. But like for what we could have gotten, I think this is okay. And we'll discuss further. But Mr. Beast comes saying his class. I was watching with my mom and I was like, I bet he's gonna say I have a briefcase, and she's like, is that his shtick that he always says? Because my parents have no idea who Mr. Beast is. But I was like, I bet he's gonna say I have a briefcase, and he's like, I have a briefcase. I was like, see, I know, but it was just in the trailer that I've watched 1,000 times, mom. Okay, but He brings it. Well, not even that. Okay, they lead up a lot of drama into this. The love one letters, which people are gonna bitch and moan in the comments. They're only gone for this is day 19, so they're almost gone 3 weeks. I've gone to camp longer than they've been on the island. But you try being a parent, okay? You try having a family. I certainly don't have kids. I don't know what it's like to leave them out there on an island, deserted, with comfort of every kind and cameraman if anything happened. No, I'm just kidding. But like, the love letters, obviously, you've been away from your family almost 2.5 weeks. You're on your death's end, not death's end, but like you're not eating food a lot. You're grinding. It's been a long couple of games. You have to betray people. Days. You have to betray people. You have to crush people's dreams. So I'm sure to get those letters, and I think they all just got one. It seemed like they all got one. They might have got multiple, but the letters, have always provided a sense of comfort, especially in the new era where it's a shortened game, so you don't get the visits, but you get these nice little letters where it always makes people emotional. You know, certain people always cry, whatever. But those come with a twist of Mr. Beast saying, "I'm giving you this one briefcase," and he turns around. There's one word on it, and it says "Beware." The new era has traumatized us, and when we see the Beware, we're like, "Oh shit." Oh shit, bro. Like, what could this possibly be? How has Mr. Beast come to ruin my favorite reality television show? And they're not even going to tell you until later on in Tribal Council, which I thought that was a choice, where, there's a lot of promo in the week. I'm tapped into this shit. I'm sorry if you're like a Facebook casual, I'm catching you up on what's going on outside of the world. I saw the commercial of the week. Like, he's at Tribal Council. I'm like, what the fuck? That's scary because he can actually like actually full blown back to like a while ago. The only thing I knew about this season was what the Mr. Beast twist was, and I thought it was just that he raises the prize money. But no, there's more. Like, even the one thing I was spoiled on was wrong. So, God bless. But he's got the Super Beware. The Super fan in me is a little nervous. It's like, can't we just vote people out? Blah blah blah. That's the whole dynamics of the game. But we're gonna have to wait and see for Tribal Council. They get the loved ones letter, but they're not gonna read them right away because they go right into the immunity challenge, which, like, okay, like, the funny part is you got like Mama Suri, she's just yuking all over the place, and then she's got to go do this immunity challenge, and it's not a hot take to say Suri's not known for her challenge prowess, but she does good in this challenge. Now this challenge, it's you have a bow, like that, and you're trying to balance a ball in the middle of it while standing on a plank. And now, actually, I talked about my experience in the Survivor Cafe a couple times. I actually was at the Survivor Cafe and did this challenge, and this shit is hard as fuck. You cannot keep this ball on this. I couldn't keep the ball on the thing for like. Actually, I could pull up a video right now if I wanted to. I'm not gonna, do that. It's hard, okay? It's this bow, and you have to have it in the middle and perfectly balanced. Like, I feel like the ones they give us at the cafe were definitely like rigged to just fail because you have people waiting in line. That's what I'm going with, okay? And when I'm on the show, I'll do better. But it's hard because you're holding this bow, you have to grip it, and then you're also standing on a plank, which by the end of this challenge, they're on this small ass plank where Jonathan's feet, what size is he? Because what size foot is Jonathan? Probably like a 15. I'm a 13, man. Like, I'm falling right off that bitch too. So, anyways, the challenge, I don't really spend too much time on the challenges. It's just not really why I watch Survivor. But cool challenge. Shout out to Tiffany. Great job, Tiffany. She wins this challenge where it doesn't seem like she moved at all. No real notable moments from this challenge. Just kind of a classic battle. Joe's right in it. Ozzy's right in it. Now Ozzy's going to tie Boston Rob's record, right? I mean, they keep mentioning, actually, I think next week, bold prediction, I don't even know what the challenge is going to be. Ozzy wins immunity, ties up Boston Rob's record. He's won away for the all-time immunity challenges. But yeah, nothing really to catch on here. Just good job, Tiff. Oh, she's like all upset about how, I was voted out day 19 last time, and now it's day 19. Like, Tiff, I love you, but like, this is the new era. We don't care about days anymore. That doesn't matter. And I guess, Sandra was all, I'm day 14, got me again. Whatever. I didn't really buy much stock into that. And she like falls in the ground. She has sand in her face. I'm like, yo, like, wipe that off. That's probably really uncomfortable, but it's her moment. I'm not going to stand away. Good job, Tiffany. Great job. Um, I thought she was honestly amazing in this challenge. Great job, Tiffany. Moving on, we get to the letter reading segment, which, if you're not a fan of analyzing the edit of the show, please turn it off now. But I think this is a very telling segment about the family because we usually get like the family flash. Usually in the new era, there's like three people who get the letters overnight at the sanctuary. They'll get their little shine. But you have to remember, 10 people got letters tonight, and we didn't really, who did Emily get her letter from? Who did Stephanie get her letter from? There are certain people who are focused on. Who did Rizzo? Did Rizzo get it? Rizzo might have, I don't know. But there are certain people who are focused on this letter segment that I think has a long way of impacting. You have to if you're trying to, if Survivor's a mystery, we're waiting to be cracked, and we're trying to figure out who's winning this game. Who would they want to show having positive reaction to this letter? Ozzy gets the first one. I was gonna write down who they're from, but I just didn't, and I don't remember who Ozzy's is from. Um, Ozzy gets a good segment. I think is his brother. I don't know. But Cirie gets one from her father, who's never written her a letter. Actually wanted to read what that said. I don't know. They kept showing it like briefly, but I just wanted to read. I can't read these days. But Rick gets one from his kid or from his wife, and his wife's like, "Go out there and be a boss." And Rick's like, "Fuck it, you're right. I'm gonna do that." And I laughed out loud when she's like taking all the scenery you can for a moment. He's just like, and he goes back to reading the letter. It's like that was funny. But the big one is Aubrey. She gets one from her husband, I'm assuming, and she gets a flashback moment to the Michelle winning Survivor 50, Queen Michelle Fitzgerald of the challenge fame and lore and legacy. Definitely gonna be on Traders in like the next 3 seasons. Um, but yeah, she's still pissed about Michelle winning, and there's Discord fired up tonight in a chat I saw about the co-wrong. People are still debating that to this day. I think I fall in the camp of the winner is always the proper winner of that certain season of Survivor. But I'm not going to rehash co-wrong shit. I just thought this was a big moment. Like, Aubrey, is she going to correct these mistakes and get on her ass and win this game and make a big move? And was tonight technically a big move for Aubrey, or is she just the Mitch of the season? I think that's been a discourse that's been going on. Is Aubrey just Mitch of not saying she's going to make a move, then not making a move? I don't know. I don't know if tonight was necessarily a huge move for her, where maybe she was the target of a double vote, so she got through it. I don't know. I don't know what she's qualifying that as on the resume, but I would not be surprised if 3 out of these 4 players that I just mentioned getting big scenes in the letter reading segment are the final 3. Um, yeah, I think those players are all destined to go pretty far in this game. Moving on, we have a fun moment of an actual plan where, heading into this episode, like I mentioned off the rip, I thought this was going to be a boring Emily or Rick vote out. Probably Emily, like, oh, let's go for Rick, but we're actually just voting Emily type thing. And there's actually a fun plan by the old school players. Jonathan has been playing a lot better this season. I've said that. And even though he's ended up on the wrong side of the votes a bunch of times, at least he's trying to fucking do something. And, a lot of people underrate his game on 42. He was out there making moves and doing shit. But he comes up with this plan, like, I'm trying to get this one person out. And I think he has the right read here, where there's designed lines in the sand. You have the old school people of Stephanie, Joe, and Jonathan, and like, I'm probably missing somebody else. But there's those 3. There's like Cirie, Rizzo, and Ozzy are a trio. And then it's like Tiff's kind of attached to them. And then there's like Aubrey, maybe with like Aubrey's kind of doing her own thing, free agent, and there's Rick and Emily. So I think that trio holds a lot of power. So Jonathan being like, fuck it, let's get out the person who's playing the middle and just clear up the sides real fast, was a super fun plan. I thought was like, let's get Ozzy out tonight. That'd be a fun change of pace. But no, Joe fucks it up and tells Cirie about this plan, which you can't tell Cirie you're going for Ozzy, which, Christian. That's having a Christian. So that plan gets thwarted immediately. So then Cirie's like, let's get Stephanie out. She's being conniving. I can't trust her as far as I can throw her. These people are not playing smart because Ozzy then goes and tells Jonathan about the Stephanie move. Dude, like, you're not. It's always like we have to loop everybody in. I've played a couple of these games. I think it's better to just talk about it after. You do the move and then you talk about it after. I'm better at that than being like, oh, I'm going to loop y'all and I'm just trusting you're not going to turn it right in my head. But it is what it is. I don't know. I thought that was stupid gameplay well, it's not stupid gameplay. It's hopeful gameplay that's just ends up being like, why? Why are you doing this? So, yeah, all the plans are scrambled out there. Cirie's name gets mentioned tonight. Rizzo's name gets mentioned tonight. It's like, are they going to play the idols? Is something going to happen? Who else was out there? Emily, Aubrey. Should we just get Aubrey? Like, I think the only people who weren't mentioned as potential votes were Tiffany, 'cause she was immune, um, and Jonathan. Like, was there really somebody else that was like off the radar there? I feel like it was just Jonathan and Tiff who were not getting names. And Jonathan actually goes up to Rizzy. He's like, I was gonna say Tiff. It's like Tiff's immune, dude. But great scramble where I have a vivid memory of watching. I think it's was it the Salvo off of season 47 where like there was just chaos happening. Like everything hit the fan. This is or maybe no, that's a different season. But I love the scramble, man, of like not knowing who's going home. It's a little bit, and I'm not even one of those people who's like, oh, 20 minutes into the episode, I knew Christian was going home. I don't, but like, it's fun to have actually no idea who's going home. Like, I was sitting with my mom, I was like, I have no idea who's going home tonight. I have absolutely no fucking clue who's going home tonight. And I think that's when Survivor's at its best. So, great job by the editors, and actually, Mr. Beast takes full responsibility for this. It was totally him who, in introducing his advantage into the game, he created a whole new layer of chaos. Right. Anyways, I thought this was a great scramble. I thought this was well timed. This is what I watched Survivor for, to have no idea who's going home. Said that a couple of times, so you get the point of it. We go to Tribal Council. Rick, you know, I was waiting for Rick. Do we need a Rick? Who's doing bombs? Oh, Ben Bomb. Yeah, we don't want to follow that up. Rick is just doing awesome. I'm waiting for him to reveal everything because he's like, I was gonna say cerebral. I'm just spewing tonight. I'm sorry. I've said a lot tonight, but Rick, I'm waiting for him to say something because he's like, at Tribal Council, I'm blowing it up. And when Rick says that, I believe it. And he did. And he's like, I need to tell a story and then a pitch. And he's like, here's what happened. Stephanie and Jonathan approached me with the idea of taking out. Like, he tells the whole story of what happened that afternoon in his head. And I don't like, is it a good move? Probably not. But like, if you're in the spot he's in, like, why not? It's worked for him before in the past. So like I thought that was a decent move by Rick to do that, and it turns out well for him again. Like I said, I think I said this off the top, and either actually I might have said this in the short, but it works out well for him where he's safe tonight due to a coin flip, but like you know he flips it onto Stephanie where I think a lot of people in America are happy. But yeah, so he turns it on them. I think Jonathan's been really bad at clapping back this season. It's just kind of like very like aggressive when he says things, and maybe that's just like the way that he comes across. I don't know, but like he's like clapping back, like that's wrong, dude. It's like just accept it and move on, and that's in the social contract of this season where Rizzo's like, we have to just say what we do, and it's better to tell the truth than to lie, which is like a tale as old as time. But I thought Stephanie did seemingly okay, but like in the moment, it didn't seem like I went over well with the group. And maybe they're, curious to hear what the plan actually was tonight before like the whole Mr. Beast of it all and the whole scramble of it all before Rick's story. Like, did he change Tribal Council again? Like with the idol stuff 2 weeks ago, I'm not sure if that actually changed Tribal Council, but this might have actually changed Tribal Council, just him telling the story like that. So I think Rick's playing just. I can't even say he's playing like great. I'm just saying he's playing a game that's great for TV. Props to Devins. Moving on. Here comes Mr. Beast again. Like I said, I didn't think he'd be at Tribal Council, but here he is. He brings a twist. Now, curious to hear y'all thoughts on this. I'm gauging some reviews from my peers. I think this was a good twist overall. I don't like the idea of that if nobody wanted to do it, you could just have to flip a coin and you go home automatically because you draw a rock. So that's like you're basically just drawing a rock to go home. But I know that's how Mr. Beast does things. It's season 50. We got to get people out of here. But this is a noble tribal council. So that's my one drawback of like, if no one wanted to do it, and luckily tonight we had somebody who was more than willing to do it. But like if no one was willing to do it and you had to draw rocks, like that would just be stupid. And you know. But on the bright side, we're up in this bad boy to $2 million. So hopefully people start playing even more aggressive to get that money for their family. But not only do you raise the prize pot to $2 million, which that's big in of itself. Like I said, only Tony has $2 million from season 50 or season 40, and in today's economy, 2 million is basically the last year's 1 million, or a couple years ago 1 million. So not only do you get raised prize money, you get you're safe tonight, which is insane in and of itself, knocking the people who can get voted out down to 8 from 9, 10 people, Tiffany saved down to 8 people. And not only that, you get a public immunity idol, which he could just fucking Rizzo that thing and ride it out to the end. Like, what the hell? So it's a real, like, I just thought of it. It's a real do or die proposition tonight. I think that's where we were going with this. Um, welcome back, welcome back, do or die. We made it back tonight. But it's basically just do or die on like a completely insane scale, where if you miss, you go home. Built up some. I have to say, like, it was dramatic as fuck, and I was standing up, yeah, but like I felt like there could have been better music, like better surround sound, like let's hype this thing up. But I don't know if it was okay. It was good. It was good, but like it wasn't. It could have been great. It could have been like I could have gotten chills. I didn't really get those chills. Anyways, Rick is like, I want to fucking flip this coin. I don't know. I'm sorry for cursing. It's late in the night. It's late in the pod. Rick wants to flip it. Respect, but like you don't need to. I don't think that was really the smartest thing to do, but it is what it is. And his kid loves Mr. Beast, and Rick's just in fuck it mode. So I really, I can't hit on this move at all. And Aubrey's like, actually, I don't know if I want to let him flip. And they're like, Aubrey, do you want to flip? And she's like, he got it. So it's like, I don't know. And I think Aubrey's trying to distance herself as much as possible from Rick because they played the same season together. And he's kind of on the bottom right now. But Rick, I think if you're everybody else, you have to let him flip it. It's like the kid could go home. I don't want to say the kid, he's probably 15 years older than me. The dude could go home right here, right now, if you let him flip and he misses. And if he doesn't, your prize spot's $2 million, and you just have to make sure you're not one of the 8 people, or you have a, what, 13.5% of going home just off principle. But if you trust your alliances, lower those, whatever. So you have to let him flip it. And he does. And of course, he gets it. People are going to say weighted coin. I think in my opinion, in my honest opinion, I think there's more of a chance that they pointed Suri into the way of the correct coconut than there is a chance of them weighing the coin. What does that mean in the grand scheme of things? I don't know, but I feel like they wouldn't weigh that shit, and that shit rolled around. Like that's not just landing on the head of the weight that it wants it to. Like that was not happening. So people saying rigged. I'm sure more people will come in with that, but like, well, the do or die never really died. I don't know. It's just do or die. You never die. So he gets it. Chaos, it was a great moment. More chaos ensues where nobody knew anything of what was going on. Apparently, we just need to rehash like camp in tribal council, which I'm fine with that. And been a big advocate over the years of the subtitles at the live tribal councils. Think it really makes it a better experience. Ultimately, they do land on something. Nothing really. Well, actually, Jonathan calls Emily like a liar or something, which was what I was kind of referring to earlier. But nothing really like notable from the scramble. Rizzo's kind of like narrating it all, as he's kind of the guy Jeff's going to narrate this live tribal scene. But everyone feels pretty good about something. They'll just sit down naturally, and that's the best at the end of a live tribal. And Jeff's like, okay, Jeff doesn't even have to ask. They're just like, all right, we're good, we got this. And a unanimous vote tonight, which is crazy. So before we go to read the votes, Stephanie uses her steal a vote, which became a big problem with the tribal council as well. She mentioned she had told Sari, and then it was like, why would you tell Sari when you were going for her? Whatever. She steals Devin's vote, which I do think is an optimal play for Stephanie. Rick's just an asshole, or an asshole to her at this point, just not playing the game, or not playing at the game with her. So might as well take his vote. Know where 2 votes are going tonight. In a crazy vote, you have 2, whatever. But ultimately, and not even Jonathan. Jonathan got on the right side this time, as Stephanie's voted out in an 8-2 vote, with her 2 votes being for Aubrey. It seemed like I said one of the girls was going to go home between Aubrey, Emily, or Stephanie at the end of the live tribal. I was right, and Stephanie is the 10th placer of Survivor Season 50, which I don't think anybody out there is, if you ride or die for Stephanie, actually, let me know down below in the comments, because I just refuse to believe those people exist. But Stephanie voted out tonight, 10th. She came back for the 4th time. This was the hardest on her, apparently. I think she'll get over it. She was seemed to be in good spirits on talking to Eliza Orlins, drinking wine. But yeah, Stephanie voted out tonight. Goodbye. Na 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 na. Hey hey hey. Goodbye. There you go. Stephanie voted out tonight. 8-2. Love it. What a result. What an episode. What an episode of Survivor. So that was my thoughts on Survivor episode 10. Side Dish of Chaos. I thought this was a great episode. Survivor 50, been delivering. It's not only delivering now, it's been delivering. So that's where we leave it off. Episode 10. Your thoughts down below. Would love to hear them. Top three to win right now. I didn't even draw it up. I didn't even put it in my notes. This is off the dome right now. I got Suri 1, even though it's impossible for Suri to get to the end. Um, Rick 2? I know. It's not. Rick's probably like 3. I'm going to put Rizzo. I feel like Rizzo wants to be a legend. He can get there. Rizzo 2, Rick 3. Top 3 out next. I think John could be in some trouble. Challenge threat. Emily seems like she's just there for the ride. They take from the old school, they're going to take from the new school. And then in that same sort of camp, Aubrey. Yeah, but Aubrey's story's set up for the future. Maybe they go Tiff instead, not Aubrey. So top 3 to win. Suri, Rizzo, Rick. Top 3 out next. Jonathan, Tiffany, or Emily. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments. I'm not spoiling this season, by the way. I would never fucking do that. And I hate people who are spoiling and never comment on my fucking shit, spoiling shit. I'll fucking kill you. Sorry, threat to those people who spoil shit. All right, well, that's it for Survivor episode 10. 3 weeks left of Survivor, which is insane. Is there 4 weeks? Or am I just capping? There might be 4 weeks. While I pull this up, I think there's 14 episodes, isn't there? Only 13 according to this. Only 3 weeks left, guys, which is crazy. But if you are just finding my channel for the first time, I do so many things on this beautiful. I'm on one tonight. I think this is a good episode. All right. Well, I do so many things in this podcast. Shows, Survivor. I don't cover a lot of other reality shows. Maybe in the future I'll start doing that. Um, I don't know, but Survivor's my thing in terms of reality. But if you're watching other scripted shows, we're doing Maul, Sith Lord. I've gone through quite the journey of the fans loving my opinions on one week, hating my opinions on the next week. So one last week of Maul, Sith Lord this week coming up, and you can also check out my previous shorts on that. Same thing with Daredevil. Daredevil review. I'm hoping to get that out tomorrow night. I'm on NBA playoffs mode where I have to fucking force myself to watch basketball and watch the freaking Celtics choke. But Daredevil, we have 2 weeks left of Daredevil as well. So really everything coming into wraps here. And then if you want future, we got some announcements. House of the Dragon season 3 coming out in June. One of the original shows I covered on the channel. And also Silo season 3 coming on July. So that's where we're at for the shows. Movies, you never know what you're gonna get in terms of a movie. Um, I don't. There's no movies on my radar right now to review, but they pop up, and Limitless was a really fun time where I mispronounced like the main product of the movie a million times. So I'm sure people would be happy to watch that one. And then there's just more movies will come in the future when these shows start wrapping up. May. I don't see a lot of shows happening in the mid-May, so maybe I'll catch up on movies at that point. And then sports, like I mentioned before, Celtics fan. We have an NBA podcast going. We'll actually be live soon, I think next week, talking about the end of round 1 and the beginning of round 2. Some great series happening across the NBA, a lot of drama, a lot of intrigue. As always, that's what we're here for with the NBA. And then we'll cover UFC numbered events. I think the next one's in 2 weeks, Strickland versus Chimaev, and then the big White House event in June. So really, it's pick your poison on this Dubcast. There's so many options available for the people out there. So if you made it all the way 38 minutes into this podcast, I really appreciate you. I just hit 100 subscribers. Would appreciate that count to keep on going. And yeah, like this video, dislike the video if you need to. I'm not going to hold it to you. Any interactions, positive interaction. So appreciate you sticking all the way through. And as always, be easy, y'all.